Welcome back to Justice. President Trump just wrapping a moving speech in D.C. to veterans. Joining me now by phone with reaction to that speech and more, counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway. Good evening, Kellyanne. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, Judge. Thanks for having me remotely. How are you?
Well, I'm sure you're hopefully having some rest this weekend, but what's your reaction to the president's speech?
Well, this is exactly why the president ran in the first place, Jeanine. Today he honored Christian evangelicals, he honored veterans. And, you know, I always remind people that last year, really last July, Mr. Trump, when he was running, put the whole challenge to this country when he said, sure, I have a 10-point plan to reform the Veterans Administration. But more importantly, if we don't take care of our veterans, who are we as a nation? And he really placed that challenge on all of us. Who are we as a nation? And I think nights like tonight at the Kennedy Center, he's honoring these veterans in a way ahead of the birthday of our Independence Day, birthday of our country. He also spoke about religious liberty. He basically conveyed the message that no one's going to stop you from practicing your faith or saying what's in your heart, that his administration will always support and defend your religious liberty. We don't want to see God forced out of our public squares. We want people to feel comfortable to say prayers before meals, to be praised outwardly for their service and heroism. And he also called out an 89-year-old World War II veteran, which is just remarkable. He also really talks about education and the role of parents. He said parents, not bureaucrats, know how best to raise their children and create a thriving society. Why is that important? Well, it's important because we just, Washington, D.C., the swamp, Jeanine, is a place where the federal government believes it's so invasive, intrusive, expensive, expansive. It believes it knows best what's right for Americans. And the president is saying, excuse me, individuals and certainly parents know what's best for their children.
Well, and Kellyanne, it seemed to me that the president, he is always at his best when he talks about the military, talks about law enforcement and religion. These are three themes that he promised he's delivering on with the executive order on the Johnson Amendment, that he will continue to deliver on. And as someone of faith, for me to hear my president, it's so unusual these days to say, if you want to say a prayer before a football game, we're going to let you say that prayer. It's reassuring.
Right.
But the president at this point has, I think, made it clear what his strengths are. And he needs to stay focused on speeches like this and not get crazy with Twitter.
I love the fact that he connects directly with people on social media and otherwise, Jeanine. But, we just appreciate that you're covering the substance, because the other things that he talked about tonight, he did mention the press, but most importantly, he mentioned all the promises he's keeping on Supreme Court, on judicial restraint, frankly, that what he veterans. You're one of the few shows, one of the few networks out there that even bothers to connect veterans with the information they need and they deserve. They've got a veterans hotline. The Veterans Accountability and Whistleblower Protection Act is for them. The idea that they've got medical records that makes them a seamless patient throughout the entire federal government now. Nothing short of remarkable. And then I think he got raucous applause really when he talked about how we worship God. We don't worship the government in this country. And I think that really, really encapsulates who he is.
Well, I think that is the most powerful line of the speech. In America, we don't worship our government, we worship God. But let me just go to one thing, and I have to ask you some stuff of substance. Senator Mitch McConnell said that he's going to stick with his plan to simultaneously repeal and replace Obamacare, despite the president's call, saying let's repeal it and replace it later. And what I interpreted as sarcasm was Mitch McConnell saying it's not easy making America great again, is it? Is McConnell showing himself to be that old, entrenched Republican establishment fighting with the outsider, or am I wrong?
The president and Leader McConnell speak daily. They're in close contact with respect to health care and other pieces of legislation that need to move through the Senate, Jeanine. And I have great confidence, in fact, that this Republican majority, that the country elected, House, Senate, White House, governorships, state legislatures, they want action. They don't want divided government. And they're saying to Leader McConnell and the president, come up, get the yes, come up with a deal. One option is to repeal and replace simultaneously. Another option is to go back to and look at what these senators voted on in 2015, when so many of them, with the exception of one, Senator Collins, voted for specific health care principles. So, namely, to get rid of all those taxes and penalties under Obamacare, to slow the growth of slow down the expansion, not end it, but slow it down, so that governors have more flexibility. And as Secretary Price has pointed out, the Senate bill in its current configuration would increase spending by $71 billion on Medicaid in the next decade. So those who lie about that, those who are denying are lying about that.
Well,
look,
let me just say, Kellyanne, because I don't have a lot of time here.
But we feel confident that something will be passed this summer, that the president will get a bill on his desk and he'll sign it into law followed in quick succession by tax reform.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you, my money is on that as well, Kellyanne, but I was kind of surprised at Mitch McConnell's comment. But in any event, the president hit it out of the park tonight. He was as solid and as passionate on all of his promises that he's been delivering on, and tremendous respect for the veterans. Anyway,
I want to say
Kellyanne,
one more thing quickly about it, Jeanine. The president was already at Bedminster with his family, enjoying a well-deserved day or two, and yet he flew right back to Washington tonight to make good on that promise to be at the Kennedy Center to honor those veterans. It tells you something about his leadership and his commitment.
Well, no question. And when he said there's no place I'd rather be, I absolutely believe him. Kellyanne Conway, thanks so much for being with us.
See you soon. Happy birthday, America.
Good.
Take care.
Thanks. And next, faith, a huge part of the president's speech. Jerry Falwell Jr. is standing by live with his take. Back in a moment.